Darwin's Paradox is a puzzle platforming game where you play as a protagonist Darwin, an oddly colored octopus in a visually stunning animated world. You first take control of Darwin as he's hanging out with a fellow octopus, and the game providing an overview of its basic controls. Soon after, the pair gets suddenly abducted by an alien spaceship. What follows is a montage that serves as a quick synopsis of the events that followed, ultimately showing the pair in what seems to be a food processing warehouse, then making a run for an escape, but getting caught and Darwin seemingly thrown away while the butcher keeps his friend captive. This sets up the plotline for you and Darwin as you help him make his way through these facilities on a mission to find and rescue his friend. In doing so, you discover the butcher, along with regular line cooks, dock workers, and foot soldiers you have run-ins with throughout the game, are all actually aliens in disguise. These aliens establish a food corporation called U-Food, with sinister intentions of ridding humans from Earth with a planned invasion. Before I speak on why I love the game and how it made its way into the rare category of games that I'm willing to replay, I want to share my quick journey on obtaining this platinum trophy in what was an easygoing, non-stressful, and joyful experience. The very first trophy I obtained was in the first stage and by complete accident. It's where you have to maintain Darwin's camouflage for 10 consecutive seconds. In this section, you use this mechanic to make your way past and not be seen by a few morays lurking around the area. After getting past the initial morays, you get the trophy called Inked Away that pops automatically by using the ink mechanic to get past a second pair of morays and completing the introductory stage. Participation award is virtually unmissable as you walk right past it after you take control of Darwin inside of a trash can in a landfill. This is one of 20 collectibles that you get throughout the game, and are almost necessary as they aid in helping you understand and add more context to the plotline. The next two trophies, you earn them almost simultaneously as you progress through the furnace section and ultimately cause an explosion to this building located in U-Food's group of facilities. The first one is called Progress is Good, which is for finding your 5th collectible. You get a trophy for every 5 collectibles you discover, totaling to 4 trophies total. Next up is Can't Catch Me, which pops shortly after getting past the section where Steven the Seagull is attacking you, which is hilarious because it's a play on words as it's a reference to 80s action star Steven Seagal. Sneaky Star is one of the 2 trophies in this game that pose any resemblance of difficulty. Once you escape both the building explosion and Steven the Seagull, you end up outside in one of U-Food's docks and surrounded by dock workers. For this trophy, you have to make your way past this section without being seen. If you're seen just once, you have to restart from the very beginning. As you can see, the trophy isn't too hard because I was only caught the one time and was able to get the trophy on my second attempt, so it's not one to stress too much over. Next trophy is called Can Do, which is a nice change of pace compared to the previous one, as all you really have to do is knock all the food cans off the wall of the first room you walk into after making your way into the packaging facility building. Similar to the trophy Sneaky Star, where you have to avoid being spotted as you make your way through the dock, the office section was definitely the hardest out of the 2 and a lot lengthier, which added to the stress. The bathroom portion of this trophy, my goodness, was the most hectic. Although I got the trophy after a few tries, I think the added pressure of finally getting past the first section was making my hands sweat. But after you get past this, it's pretty easy as long as you're patient and pick up on the NPC's patterns. Once you enter a different section within a packaging facility, you see a bunch of chefs and line cooks. You then get caught and placed on a hook connected to a conveyor belt, in which you have to solve a pretty straightforward puzzle using the ink mechanic you relearned in a previous section. All it takes is timing, which you'll pick up on after a few tries. I died a handful of times before I was able to pick up on it. As soon as you get past the puzzle section and get dropped down, you'll immediately turn left and find the 10th collectible and trigger the You're Pretty Sharp trophy. After getting past what I feel is the most puzzle intensive section of the whole game, you again find yourself causing another malfunction and explosion, only to have yet another run-in with our old friend Steven the Seagull, and have to escape his attacks one final time to trigger another trophy. During this chase, this is the only time you'll have the opportunity to unlock a trophy called Inking Steven Seagull, where you have to shoot him with Darwin's ink mechanic during the chase. It's extremely easy and virtually unmissable if you just wait for him to position himself right above you. Didn't Follow the Light is unmissable and a part of the story progression. Once you get past the underwater minefield, a chase scene will trigger when a lanternfish appears and begins chasing you. It's not terribly difficult as soon as you realize the pattern and understand you have to go through levels and corners in a certain sequence to give yourself enough time to get through the very last section of the chase. That's essentially a straight shot to the exit. Progressing further into the game, and once you get Darwin into the robot suit, immediately turning left and going through a couple of doors will lead you to the game's 15th collectible and triggering the 3rd trophy out of the 4. Only 5 more collectibles to go at this point. No Time to Lose is one of the most random yet funnest trophies on this list. You have to reach the target score in the obstacle course, which is very easy to get. Getting a targeted time of 3 minutes or shorter is necessary to obtain though, in order to progress with the collectible related trophies, as you receive an actual trophy for making a targeted time, which also counts as a collectible. Soon after you get past the obstacle course section, you interact with a wheel, causing yet another malfunction, although this being the final one of the game. What follows is a handful of platforming sections you must get past until you finally find your friend, who's kept captive in a testing lab the alien scientists are running. After completing a puzzle to free your friend, you'll unlock the trophy Free at Last. After freeing your friend, you still have to search for them, as their only way out of the tank was on the opposite side. You'll get another set of semi-difficult platforming sections, including another run-in with the lanternfish, which was anxiety-inducing. Towards the end of these platforming sections, you have to make your way past the alien's headquarters. The very last collectible is found once you make your way through the ceiling vents and take a few turns off course to locate and trigger the trophy. Once you make your way past this section, you find yourself at what looks to be the final boss's lair, where he proceeds to panic at Darwin's invincibility and proceeds to hit a red button, causing Yufu's whole base to self-destruct, triggering the "Oops, I did it again" trophy. The very last section of the game sees you being chased by the final boss in what I would describe as a Transformer-style giant crab. This last chase sequence is tricky, as some sections are pretty dark and you'll have to memorize certain sequences and locations of some mines in order to progress further. It's not terribly difficult, but it did stress me out a few times. It took me a handful of attempts to get the right sequencing down to get past this final stage, but once you do, you and Darwin's friend somehow land on the final boss's spaceship, hovering around the area, only to end up in a tug of war between the three, and Steven the Seagull making a final appearance, wanting a piece of the action. This prompts Darwin and Steven to knock the alien boss out of the way, and locking themselves in the spacecraft, they proceed to hit a button and both get launched into space, simultaneously ending the story and triggering the last trophy, Fly Me to the Moon, and the platinum trophy, Paradox Fixer. The way the game ended almost guarantees the developer ZDT Studio has a sequel in mind to further expand on Darwin's quest. I genuinely enjoyed this game from top to bottom. Not that this game is without flaws, because it definitely has some, but the overall experience and quirky nature of the game was such a refreshing playthrough, for me at least. I'm really big on games that feel very grounded and responsive. I love that controlling Darwin didn't feel like a chore or something I dreaded doing, which I can't say for every game that I've played in the past. When I wasn't playing the game, I was thinking about it and looking forward to the moment I could boot it back up just to be able to maneuver Darwin through puzzle sections or sprinting through the underwater levels. The developers did their thing with this game, as every mechanic felt snappy and rewarding. I don't believe I fall in this category of gamers, but I would love to see the reaction of one of those who dreads underwater levels in games. I wasn't aware of this trope until recently, and it's a fairly common thing in the gaming community apparently. I can't see a world where Darwin's Paradox doesn't change at least a few of these people's opinions on these types of levels, because it's so fun maneuvering Darwin through water, especially during those chase scenes. One thing I'm sure the developer will improve upon in the sequel is the game's narrative, or the lack thereof. I say this because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the game has no real dialogue aside from the intro, where you get a funny 1950s educational style video focused on the intelligence of an octopus, which is what our protagonist is. A lot of the plotline is implied, but to get further immersed in the story, obtaining all of the game's collectibles is almost necessary. The issue with this is, not everybody wants to 100% the game. Those individuals who don't are essentially missing small pieces that give more value to the game's story. Now, I know this game or its narrative isn't comparable to a AAA story-driven title. The plotline is pretty ridiculous and silly, but in a good way. Nowadays, I feel like the games industry is saturated with games that are live service, with intent to print money for the publisher and make stakeholders happy, or single-player narrative-focused titles that take almost a whole console generation to develop and release. Darwin's Paradox is giving me hope that at some point, things will change. It's giving me hope that sometime in the near future, developers will put less focus on 50+ hour games and focus on shorter ones, but with just as captivating content. Playing Darwin's Paradox gave me a nostalgic feeling of playing an oddball title that I would find when my mom would take me to Hollywood Video on a Friday night to rent one game and one movie. It took me back to those times where I didn't have to devote so many hours of my time to get the satisfaction of beating one single game, but beating several. It's giving me hope that maybe one day we can go back to where a developer like Naughty Dog puts out a few games in one console generation like they did during the PS3 era. It's giving me hope that one day the industry finds a perfect balance to satisfy all of us and without one group feeling left out.